Putin has opened a new front in the war. Russia has been attacking Ukrainian warehouses, courier terminals, and other logistical facilities for years. However, now this fight has also moved deep into Russian territory. Ukraine has started openly targeting large commercial logistics centers deep inside Russia. The war has thus found the nervous system of both Russia and Ukraine. It is not made up of trenches or command posts. It consists of huge warehouses through which packages, electronics, medicines, spare parts, and supplies for thousands of companies pass. When one such hub goes down, the problem doesn't stay at the site of the attack. Shipments have to be rerouted, transportation slows down, and other warehouses suddenly get more work than they can normally handle. The consequences can show up hundreds of kilometers away. 18. On July 18, Ukrainian drones hit two Wildberries complexes. This is the largest Russian online retailer. The first warehouse was in Kotovsk in the Tambov region. The second was in Elektrostal near Moscow. According to Russian authorities, 7 night shift workers were killed in Kotovsk and another 25 were injured. In the Moscow region, authorities later reported 1 dead and 61 injured in the attacks, which also hit the center in Elektrostal. Elektrostal itself shows why these facilities are so important. It's a huge complex. According to the company's data, it has approximately 250,000 square meters. In the same area, there's also a data center with 7,000 servers. So it's not just goods stored in one place. There are orders, inventory data, automatic sorting, and a system that decides where everything should go next. When such a hub goes down, the company doesn't just lose storage space. It loses the place through which it manages the movement of a large part of its goods. You can clearly see this in what Wildberries did after the attacks. The goods stored in both damaged centers were temporarily withdrawn from sale. At the same time, it allowed partners to send planned deliveries to other warehouses. So the fire itself affected 2 buildings. However, the company had to reroute orders, transportation, and new deliveries throughout the entire network. And that cost time and money. The Ukrainian leadership openly admitted that these logistics facilities were intended targets. Volodymyr Zelensky claimed that through them, Russia was supplying sanctioned components for the production of drones and navigation devices. However, publicly available evidence does not yet show what components were in the warehouses. We also don't know in what quantity they were there or exactly who they were intended for. So this remains a claim by the Ukrainian side. It is not an independently confirmed fact. This is an important distinction. A large trading platform can sell ordinary civilian goods. Electronics that can be used for multiple purposes can also pass through it. And soldiers or military contractors can shop there as well. However, that alone does not prove that a particular warehouse actually supported a military operation. It's one thing for a company to operate in a wartime economy. It's another thing whether a specific building became a military target. A day later, large logistics facilities were burning in Ukraine as well. The Russian attack hit 2 warehouse buildings in the Kyiv region. Together, they covered about 100,000 square meters. More than 200 rescuers and dozens of pieces of equipment fought the fire. It took more than a day. Ukrainian authorities did not officially name the company. However, the media and open sources identified the site as the Amtel Logistics Complex in the Bucha district. On the same day, Russia also struck the sorting terminal of Nova Poshta near Kharkiv 3 times. The number of casualties increased throughout the day. A later report stated that there were 4 dead and 19 injured. The company then activated backup routes and other sorting centers. They tried to minimize delays in deliveries. The real impact of the attack is not measured only by the size of the fire. What matters is whether the network can bypass the damaged node. Russia did not start attacking Ukrainian private logistics only now. Terminals of Nova Poshta and other distribution facilities have been repeatedly targeted since the early years of the large-scale invasion. In October 2023, a Russian attack on a postal distribution center near Kharkiv killed 6 people. In January 2026, another strike destroyed the company's innovative terminal and killed 4 workers. So July did not mark the beginning of the Russian campaign against Ukrainian logistics. It only continued it. What is new is that Ukraine is now doing the same deep inside Russia. It has started openly targeting comparable commercial logistics centers. Kyiv is no longer attacking only refineries, airports, ammunition depots, and arms factories. It has also added the infrastructure of a major online retailer to its list of targets. And this turns the long-standing Russian attacks on Ukrainian logistics into a mutual fight against the commercial distribution networks of both countries. That it wasn't just a one-night event was suggested by another attack on the Moscow region on July 20th. Wildberries then preemptively evacuated its logistics center in the Podolsk district. Operations were later resumed. That still doesn't prove a long-term campaign against the entire company. However, it shows that commercial logistics have become explicitly named targets of Ukrainian long-range attacks. One fire won't stop a Russian online store, nor will two. What matters is what happens if similar strikes keep happening in multiple locations and come faster than their network can replace them. Why would anyone even use a long-range drone on a warehouse full of consumer goods when there are military bases and factories? The answer is simple. Large logistics centers rely on concentration. One factory usually produces a limited range of products, but one large warehouse connects thousands of suppliers, retailers, carriers, and customers. When you take it out, the damage doesn't stop at the walls of the building. It starts to spread throughout the entire network. Let's imagine a smaller retailer who keeps most of their inventory in one distribution center. The platform receives his goods, registers them, stores them, and once an order is placed, sends them to the customer. Then the warehouse burns down. The retailer can lose both inventory and income. The customer is waiting for a refund. The carrier changes the route. Another warehouse has to handle more packages than it was designed for. One strike can create problems for people and companies hundreds of kilometers away. Moreover, a modern warehouse is not just a sheet metal building with shelves. It contains sorting lines, conveyors, scanners, servers, charging stations, and software. This system decides where each package should go. The building can be modified or built from scratch. Specialized equipment, information systems. However, you can't replace an established operation overnight. The company can redirect shipments. They pay for it with longer routes, lower capacity, and higher costs. And an attack on logistics can create a military problem even without destroying a single military item. The state will start protecting warehouses, terminals, and industrial parks. It has to move radars, jammers, air defense, firefighters, and repair capabilities to them. Each such facility then competes for the same resources as a refinery, airport, or factory. The enemy is using up people and equipment even where there's no direct fighting. For Russia, this problem is especially troublesome because of its size. Distribution centers were created to quickly supply entire regions. At the same time, they are fixed, well-known, and cannot be easily relocated. Ukraine does not have to shut down the entire Wildberries platform. It's enough if it forces it through repeated attacks to split up supplies, change routes, interrupt operations during alarms, and invest in protection. Each of these steps reduces the advantage that the large, centralized system originally provided. The company can split its supplies among several smaller warehouses. However, this makes everything more expensive. It needs more buildings, more workers, more vehicles, and more information links. The same applies to the state. A dispersed network can withstand more hits. However, it is more expensive and smaller, less efficient. In peacetime, centralization is advantageous because it reduces costs. In war, that same concentration becomes a weakness that the enemy can easily find on the map. Ukraine is subject to the same principle, but under much harsher conditions, its territory is smaller. Russian missiles have greater destructive power and the attacks happen more frequently. That's why logistics companies are building backup routes, generators, backup terminals, and procedures for outages. When Nova Poshta redirected shipments after the strike, it didn't mean that the attack caused no damage. It meant that the company already considers the destruction of its own infrastructure as a real operational risk. So one big fire won't stop the country's supply network. Extensive networks have multiple warehouses, spare capacity, and the ability to reroute transport. A real strategic effect only occurs when attacks hit important nodes faster than the system can replace them. So the area of the burned-down hall isn't the most important thing. What matters is the gap between destruction and recovery rates. If we want to find out whether individual strikes are becoming an effective strategy, it's not enough to just watch footage of the fires. We need to monitor how long the centers remain out of operation, how many shipments have to be rerouted, whether delays start to pile up, and whether companies speed up distributing their supplies across more locations. Only this data will show whether the attack mainly caused large and visible damage or if it really reduced the performance of the entire network. So far, we have convincing evidence of the vulnerability of logistics hubs. We don't have evidence of the crippling of Russian or Ukrainian supply systems. Finally, there's the legal question. A private warehouse doesn't become a military target just because goods pass through it. What matters is its specific use. According to international humanitarian law, only objects that actually contribute to military activity can be attacked, and whose destruction at that moment will bring a certain military advantage. Even then, the attacker must consider civilian harm and take feasible steps to limit it. Therefore, with Wildberries, a fundamental question remains unanswered. What evidence did Ukraine have of the military use of the targeted centers? The public has not seen it yet. When it comes to Russian attacks on Ukrainian warehouses, a general claim that it's about logistics is not enough. Each facility needs to be evaluated based on what it was actually used for and what information the attacker had at the time of the attack, not based on the label from either side. Putin opened this front back when Russia began systematically destroying Ukrainian warehouses and courier hubs. But now the same fight has returned deep into Russia. It has become reciprocal and overt. Russia is attacking Ukrainian logistics. Ukraine is hitting comparable targets, including commercial hubs deep inside Russia, and both sides are targeting systems that keep a large part of the country running. One destroyed warehouse won't decide the war, but when such attacks are repeated, the consequences are no longer felt by just a specific company. Supplies are redirected, transportation slows down and becomes more expensive. The state redeploys additional defenses, and the problems gradually spread throughout the entire economy. That's why the large distribution centers are becoming one of the most vulnerable points of the modern wartime economy.
If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a like and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next ones I'm working on. You can support my work with thanks. To help the video reach more people, click hype. Thank you.